Can you tell me what happened with the deed?
Oh, by the way, I forgot. Thanks for turning it into a JPEG for me. I appreciate that. The deed itself, I mean, the picture that I had of it, what happened there was that I was sent to this. Had a farmer who was a client, and he told me that one of his neighbors said that the next time that I was out seeing him, he'd like me to stop by. So I did. And it was interesting because, I mean, the guy was he was out in the barn and he was dressed in his warm Carhartt clothes and whatnot. And I had on my little thin shoes from in town, and I was standing out there freezing my butt off. And finally, I think it was like a test or something. He said, "Well, let's go in the house." And he introduced me to his wife, and we talked and so forth. And I am a master of asking really insightful questions. So I said, I didn't call him by his first name. We're still on a Mr. basis. And I said, can you tell me how important is it that that the farm continues on? I mean, I knew his son was there and his daughter-in-law and so forth. And how important is it? And he looked at me kind of, I don't know, maybe he was sizing me up, or I don't know what, but he kind of looked at me. And he got up and left the room. And I thought, I didn't know what to think, really. And he was gone for what was probably 5 minutes, but seemed like, an hour. And he came back with this metal box that he had apparently taken out of the safe. And he opened the metal box, and he took this heavy envelope out with a string tied around it. It was old, and he handed it to me. And so I opened it. And inside of it, and I was just blown away with it, inside of it was the original land grant deed signed by James Madison in 1812. And I had one of his relatives, same last name, his great something, and his name in it. So I didn't have to ask him the question again, how important is this to you? So I gave him back the deed and whatnot, and then we made an appointment to sit down and talk about how we would move the process forward. And the interesting thing is that several years later, maybe 6 or 8 years later, when I was at the memorial service, he had passed away, and his widow said to me, she said that the very first time when I was there, she said she knew that Dick really liked me. And I said, well, how do you know? What made you say that? She said, well, because he had never, ever shown anyone other than the family that deed. And he had never let anyone other than me take it out of the house. So I took it to the office, and had a photocopy made of it. So it was just a neat feeling. And then a couple of years ago, I ran into at a meeting. I ran into his son, who was my age, and his daughter and her husband, who are now like the 6th or 7th generation on the farm. So in the context of we want our farm to last forever, I mean, this was really an interesting experience.